When the battle fought at Joint Base McChord and Lewis began, it started between hours 2 and 3 of the invasion. And I take you to that map now, where we have the 9th Group Army and the 32nd PAP Infantry Brigade up against the 1st Corps at Lew1s McC0rd. Air support is in the form of one JH-7 fighter bomber, tactical fighter bomber ground attack aircraft squadron, and a squadron of J-11 fighters pulling combat air patrols over the area to assist the ground forces. Now, the 9th Group Army is a Trojan force, as is the 32nd PAP Infantry Brigade here. Now, what occurred is, between hours 2 and 3, the subordinate units of the 9th Group Army moved into position after capturing Seattle and Belleview and Tac0ma in the north, and Olympia, the state capital, to the southwest. The PAP Infantry Brigade moved to the northeast corner of Olympia to set up blocking positions for their portion, their AO, to guard the approaches from I-5 headed southwest bound, while the humongous 9th Group Army of about 50,000 troops in the entire force of all its subunits combined moved into position within the first few hours of capturing the objectives previously mentioned. We have the 9th ADA Brigade of the 9th Group Army, which immediately downs 2 American fighters in the air that were airborne at the time of the massive grid and comms failure due to the combo of anti-satellite weapons and massive cyber attack on military networks and the grid itself, as well as the Electronic Warfare Regiment here belonging to the 9th Group Army, acting as a redundancy as its battalions and its HQ company, independent HQ company and independent security company, began to jam all emergency frequencies known to be in use by the U.S. Armed Forces, as well as frequencies that were of possible use. All were jammed, and the avionics of these fighters lost control, and the pilots had a very difficult time trying to fly them properly, and as a result, they suffered heavily. The other 2 fighters that were airborne were instantly shot down by J-11 fighters using their air-to-air missiles, and in some cases, in one case, even using their nose cannons to down the other fighter. Now, on the ground, you had the external prongs coming in. Of the western prong, you had the westernmost 3 units coming in of the 1st Group Army, the 50th Group Army, and the 41st PAP Armored Division all coming down. And they would arrive a bit later after this battle was fought. Now, the Spec Ops Battalion of the 9th Group Army had begun their preliminary assault on the base. They penetrated the perimeter, drove deep into the base, and began to laze targets for the JH-7s coming in to do strategic tactical bomber missions. And as well as lasing targets, they also began to carry out assaults on strategic logistical positions like fuel depots, munitions depots, and other important depots and maintenance depots that would have been of vital use to the air power on the post, as well as the army power of the 1st Corps. And while that was going on, the sabotage operations and in all the chaos and confusion of the grid and comms down, Club Ks had begun firing at about hour 2, and were also hitting many strategic targets, such as aircraft on the in their hangars and on the tarmacs, where they were known to be, as well as motor pools of these various units on the post. Like you have the 551st here, you have the 17th Field Artillery Brigade, you have the 25th Infantry Division, you have the 7th Infantry Division, and you also have this MP Brigade. Here it is, the 42nd MP Brigade right here. All coming under assault from artillery, from the Trojan units. The Artillery Brigade launching huge artillery assaults were of the 9th Artillery Brigade here of the 9th Group Army, launching their rockets, their equivalent of the Grad rockets, on the base. This was a rocket artillery unit, and they were causing massive destruction, just showering the base with rocket artillery while the jamming was going on. And you had this huge formation, the 9th Armored Division belonging to the 9th Group Army. Their combo of tank battalions and mechanized infantry battalions assaulted the base in a powerful spearhead, punching through the perimeter with ease as American installations were weakly defended. And they broke in as there was nothing but a chain-link fence essentially separating the post from the rest of the country. And they penetrated that and drove in deep and begun assaulting key barracks buildings and other admin buildings in tandem with the 2nd Mechanized Infantry Brigade here, with their mech infantry units as well, trying to cut off the escapes of the likes of the 555th Engineers, who tried to escape but were cut off and surrounded and destroyed before elements, all these battalions of the 2nd Mechanized Infantry headed north to block other escapes. You had the PAP sending in 4 battalions here. 2 light tank battalions and 2 mechanized infantry battalions assaulted the 17th Field Artillery Brigade before it could really spin up its guns to get to work. And the PAP's 1 artillery battalion belonging to the 32nd Infantry Brigade here of the PAP begun to launch artillery attacks with their howitzers onto the 17th Field Artillery Brigade as a form of counter-battery fire, even though the 17th never really got any shots off. They destroyed and utterly obliterated these formations with artillery and with their light tank and mechanized infantry assault. There were civilian combatants, too. There were about 300. Each of these represents about 100 armed civilians acting in concert. They were surrounded by companies belonging to this light tank battalion of this PAP element. They were surrounded in 2 pockets and destroyed. All in all, this battle had occurred. It started in the 2nd to 3rd hour, but all in all it was over in just under 2 hours. It was about a 90-minute battle here. And you had the other elements here, this Field Artillery Brigade, moving some of its 2 of its artillery battalions further south to set up firing positions, because remember, if you look at the larger map, they had already, in the first few hours, the artillery brigade had already been shelling the Yakima area here, their training base and the Yakima reserve base. They were heavily shelling it from a position in a valley that connected to Yakima. So they were shelling it heavily with rockets, with rocket artillery, and they were setting up to attack it, but the externals had made rapid progress and come in, and they were beginning to finish up. But essentially, all in all, this base was rocketed and shelled and assaulted by armor and mech infantry into oblivion, and there wasn't much left of it by the time it was over with. This was essentially the Army's main roadblock to potentially slowing down any sort of huge invasion, but the Trojans did their job, and they did it extremely well, and they ended up totally obliterating it. Here you have the engineers, the combat engineers, they too went in and attacked the MPs here. All in all, every single unit on this base was obliterated within 90 minutes, and the Chi-Coms continued in their occupation of the entire metro